All right, today we are diving deep into a real titan of tech in Latin America, MercadoLibre. And this story is just fascinating because this isn't a company that just found a market. Oh no. This is a company that had to literally build its market from the ground up by solving some of the region's biggest, most fundamental problems. Now, you've probably heard it called the Amazon of Latin America, right? And look, that's a decent starting point, but it honestly doesn't even begin to tell the whole story. As you're about to see, Mercado Libre had to become way more than that. I mean, think Amazon, plus PayPal, plus even a little bit of UPS, all rolled into one company built for a very specific set of challenges. So, to really get why Mercado Libre is so brilliant, you have to understand the world it was born into. This was not Silicon Valley, not by a long shot. Trying to build an e-commerce company in Latin America around the year 2000, well, that meant you were up against a completely different class of problems. And we're not talking about small hurdles here. These were massive gaps in the basic infrastructure. For starters, very few people had bank accounts, let alone credit cards. Then you've got the logistics, which were, to put it nicely, a mess. And maybe the biggest issue of all, a real, deep-seated distrust of buying anything online. People just weren't comfortable with it. So what do? Where do you even begin? Well, you don't try to boil the ocean. Mercado Libre's first move was actually pretty simple, inspired by eBay. They focused on one thing and one thing only, building a marketplace that people could actually trust. The whole thing was cooked up by its founder, Marcos Galperin, while he was at Stanford back in '99. And it took off fast. They scored a huge early partnership with eBay, which was a massive vote of confidence. By 2007, they went public on the NASDAQ, and that IPO, that was like pouring rocket fuel on the fire, giving them the cash they needed to really expand. This wasn't a slow build. It was a race to be the first and biggest player in the region. And this right here is the beauty of what we call network effects. The logic is just so powerful. The more buyers you have, the more sellers want to join your platform. The more sellers you have, the better the selection and prices get, which, you guessed it, brings in even more buyers. It's a flywheel that just starts spinning faster and faster on its own. But here's where the story takes a huge pivot. As the marketplace got bigger and bigger, its own success started creating entirely new, much bigger problems. And the decision Mercado Libre made to solve those problems themselves is what turned them from just a website into a complete, full-blown ecosystem. All of a sudden, that lack of banking access wasn't just a problem for customers anymore. It was a giant bottleneck for the entire business. I mean, how on earth do you process millions of payments when a huge chunk of your users doesn't have a bank account? Relying on someone else just wasn't an option at that scale. So, what was their answer? Mercado Pago. It actually started as just a simple tool to handle their own internal payments. But they pretty quickly realized, hey, wait a minute, this could be huge. It grew into a massive fintech platform, a digital wallet that people now use for everything, on and off the platform. They basically built their own PayPal because they had to. Okay, great. Problem one is solved. People can buy stuff and they can pay for it. Fantastic. But now, how do you get that package from point A to point B reliably across a massive continent with some seriously tough logistics? The postal services just weren't putting it. And so they did it again. They built their own solution. Mercado Envios is this incredible, sprawling logistics network. We're talking their own fulfillment centers, their own warehouses, the whole shebang. By taking total control of shipping, they could promise something nobody else could: fast, reliable delivery. And that didn't just make customers happy, it built a wall around their business that's almost impossible for competitors to climb. Let's just pause and think about that. This is the key insight. Mercado Libre didn't set out to build a bank or a shipping company. They just wanted to build an online store. But to make the store work, they were forced to build the digital bank and the physical roads to support it. They ended up building the entire commercial infrastructure for the modern era in the region. And you know what happens when you're the one who built the roads and the banks? You create what investors call an economic moat. It's this powerful, durable, competitive advantage that is just incredibly hard for anyone else to even think about copying. You can see the difference so clearly here. Your typical e-commerce site, they call a third-party payment processor. They call an existing shipping company. Mercado Libre? Nope. They integrated everything with Mercado Pago and Mercado Envios. That gives them total control and creates this incredibly sticky ecosystem where buyers, sellers, and shippers are all locked into their network. Okay, so let's switch gears. What does all this actually mean if you're looking at Mercado Libre, stock ticker MELI, as an investment. How do you even begin to analyze a company that's so different? Well, it's really a story of two sides of the same coin. On one hand, you have this absolutely massive long-term growth story. E-commerce and digital payments are still just getting started in Latin America. But, and this is a big but, on the other hand, you have to be ready for some serious short-term volatility. The company is tied to regional economies, currency swings. It can be a bumpy ride. And this quote from the founder, Marcos Galperin, it tells you everything. This is the company's DNA. They have always prioritized plowing their money right back into the business, building more warehouses, better payment tech, instead of chasing short-term profits. It is all about the long game. So, what are the big lessons we can pull from this amazing story? First, the biggest opportunities are often hidden in the biggest problems, especially in underserved markets. Second, building the boring stuff, the infrastructure, can give you a truly unstoppable advantage. It proves that a real ecosystem creates benefits that just compound over time, but man, does it require patience and real conviction. And that kind of leaves us with one final big question. The MercadoLibre story is just a masterclass in turning huge disadvantages into an unbeatable competitive advantage. It really makes you wonder, what other empires are out there, just waiting to be built, not by dodging problems, but by running straight at them?